the Star City. This is Scarlet Fever, a daily Nebraskan production.
The duality of spring sports and the successes and the rises and the falls. Well, it's here. One thing goes good, the other doesn't go good. As Nebraska faithful, can you ever have something just going great all around? That's not how it works. Welcome back to Scarlet Fever. It's good to see you all again. Danny and Gio here to lead off the program. Gio, how are you?
Not too bad. Got to see a nice win on Friday night, so not bad.
At least you had that. So it is March 30th today is our record date. We're going to get to baseball and softball today. We'll have Alex Berry hopping on in a little while as well to talk about softball. And in case you get mad at us for not including any wrestling from National Runners-Up, we are going to get to that with our Wrestling Insider on the next show. So it's coming, so don't worry about that. But we're going to get to baseball first because it has been a mixed bag, if you will, especially for a team that is in a 17-team Big Ten conference. They're 16th right now, which is pretty far from their projected finish of second in the conference, is it not?
I would say you'd be correct in that. I'm no mathematician, but yeah, I think 16 is pretty far from 2. I would say that 2 was probably a little ambitious with this team.
Yeah.
It probably came down to relying on some guys to take steps forward that haven't necessarily done that this year. So
at the time of this, there is a game currently going on with the Oregon State Beavers, so we can really only talk about the first 2 games. The first game went pretty good by all accounts. It seemed like it was probably one of the first complete games they had really played.
Yeah.
For most of the season. Will Walsh looked really good. Drew Christo, I mean, people were wondering, like, what is he doing in the game? And it winds up throwing 3 scoreless innings, which was pretty impressive. And then comes Saturday's clunker, where Oregon State basically turned it into batting practice.
Yeah, so I'll start with Friday. So Friday night, it was a really good environment. I mean, the weather was beautiful outside, and for a team that was below 500 and had a disappointing start to the season, I mean, you wouldn't know by looking at the fans. I mean, it was packed. People were excited. People were cheering on the Huskers, and I think the players really fed off of that. They said as much post-game. I mean, it was really the first time they had gotten a lead early on in the game in a while. I mean,
held it.
Yeah, it had been a problem for them the last couple weekends at UCLA, at USC. They had opportunities to score early on, didn't take advantage of them, and then it didn't really matter who the opponent was. The other team would take the momentum and use it in their favor to kind of get out in front early. And, I mean, they just really struggled to get the offense going in those 2 series. You saw a little bit of offense on Tuesday when they played Kansas State. They scored some runs, but once again, I mean, they had opportunities early on to take a lead, didn't get it done. Kansas State puts up 5 runs in the bottom of the first inning. They put 2 up in the top half of the second. They give up 4 more in the bottom half, and they end up down 11-2, and the game was basically over at that point. But they ended up scoring, I believe, 8 runs in that game. So By no means they didn't give up. They kind of found something. If you asked, I mean, Coach Bolt said they kind of started to see some of the things that they wanted to work on in that game. It just took too long for them to show up. They had already kind of lost the game by the point that they started to figure it out at the plate. And then Friday night, you really started to see some of those things show up. I mean, early on in the game, they had an opportunity. They didn't get it done, but the difference was Walsh came out, and he kept them off the board in the second. He kept the Beavers off the board because they were playing Oregon State in that one. And so it was like kind of a letdown in the bottom half of the first. You had first and second, no outs, couldn't score a run. But your pitcher comes out and he says, look, we're not doing the same thing that we've been doing. I'm going to put up zeros. I'm going to give us a shot. And that's exactly what he did. I mean, he put up zeros. They got out ahead. They had a 7-0 lead, I believe. And they ended up winning that game 7-3. So that was back-to-back home runs started the scoring in that one. The place was electric. I mean, the atmosphere was just awesome in that game. And then Saturday, as you said, they got hammered. That'll happen against good teams. I mean, Oregon State's a really good team. If you just look at their lineup, they got guys 1 through 9 who can hit the ball out of the park. They have guys who are first-round draft prospects. They have pitchers who are first-round draft prospects. I mean, it's a really good baseball team that they're playing this weekend.
Yeah, Gavin Turley with 4 or 5 home runs, something like that this weekend. He had 3 in the Saturday game.
Yeah.
And pretty impressive, but I remember sitting up in the press box on Saturday and just watching Oregon State take batting practice. And while the balls might be flipping in there at 55 miles an hour, they were still hammering it all over the yard. And I don't really recall Nebraska doing the same thing on Saturday. And we've mentioned ad nauseum throughout the season that while we thought that the pitching staff was going to be a strength of the team, it has very quickly become its Achilles heel, especially with somebody who was considered for a little while to be a Friday starter in Ty Horn, and he had a better outing against USC. It was better than what it had been.
Yeah.
But then goes out against Oregon State and just did not have it.
Yeah. I mean, I think the stuff is there with Horn. It's not a question of stuff. Sometimes you see that where guys just to oversimplify it, some guys just don't have what it takes to get good hitters out. I mean, if you only have 2 pitches, it's really hard to get guys out. He has more than that. He has the ability. He has a good breaking ball. He has a fastball that's lively. It's up in the mid-90s. I think he has a slider. I know he has a slider and a curveball because Coach Boltz talked about it. It's really just a question of consistency with him. He has a tendency of when he allows one runner to get on, it kind of snowballs on him. And I don't know if he overpitches. That might not be the right word, but he definitely tightens up when there's guys on base, and it can get out of hand on him in a hurry. And so, yeah, I mean, we saw that. We didn't really see it until he got into that Friday night role. That was really the first time it happened to him all year. He'd given up runs early in his first couple of starts, but that was really the first time he had a crooked number up on the scoreboard. And I think the pressure of the Friday night role kind of seemed like it was getting to him. They moved him back to Saturday, and he just really hasn't been able to find the same rhythm that he had early on in the season.
No, he didn't look good from Jump Street. And I saw it pretty much as soon as the game started, leaving balls right over the middle of the zone.
Yeah.
And granted, the Big Ten isn't the strongest baseball conference in the world. I feel like that's pretty evident. But you can't just be leaving balls at 95 down the middle against a team like that with multiple draft prospects across multiple different drafts. I mean, there's a lot of guys on this team that were drafted right out of high school, and they chose to sign and go to college. So, and then you can't get your breaking stuff working. Yes, the weather did not help Ty Horn at all. It was definitely worse. The conditions were worse when he was out there than after he left. But I love hearing this argument from people like, oh, but the other guy did better. Okay, fine, but both teams had to deal with the conditions.
Yeah, early on, I think it was even before the season had started, Coach Chodris had talked about Ty Horn, and he kind of mentioned that he wanted to see him take that next step. But the problem is when it comes to consistency with this entire baseball team, not necessarily just him, they just haven't had it when they needed to. And what he had mentioned before the season, because his first start was against Vanderbilt and they knew that he was going to start that game at that point, was basically that you can't just throw 96 past those guys. They've seen 96 every weekend of their careers.
Especially in the
players.
SEC, which is traditionally a pretty good baseball conference.
96 is normal for those guys. They see it on Sundays. And so you have to be able to pitch. And pitchability is a big thing at this level against this type of team where Oregon State is at is you have to it may seem kind of like oversimplifying things, but you have to be a pitcher. You can't just throw the ball. You have to hit your spots. You have to throw the right pitch, and you can't just rely on one. If you rely on your fastball too much, teams like that will hammer it. If you rely on a breaking ball too much, they'll sit on your breaking ball. I mean, you have to be able to really think the game out on the mound and try and figure out what pitches they're struggling to pick up. And that was something that they said they wanted to see him take the next step on, and I think he did early on. I mean, he had Vanderbilt hitters off balance in his first start, but he's kind of lost some of what he had going good for him early.
To continue on that road, as we've seen a lot of struggles from the pitching staff, Christo has not looked like himself. Wardley has not looked like himself. We saw Carson Yaza come out of the bullpen, which I know you've had your second guesses about as to why that could be, because we haven't seen a lot of good from him out of the bullpen.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a secret that he has struggled more out of the bullpen than he has as a starter. I mean, this past week he had a rough start. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's going to happen for freshmen, but it is kind of an adjustment period. Jalen Wordley talked about earlier this year is when you come into college, you're used to starting games. It can take time to like really get into a rhythm coming out of a different role out of the bullpen. And I think for him, he looked comfortable as a starter. In his first two midweek starts, he was really sharp. He was really good. All of his stuff was working. And then the game this past week against Kansas State, you have the first pitch, you get a ground ball to your shortstop who's a junior and one of the better players on your team. You expect him to make a play. He doesn't make it. You got a runner on first, and the inning just kind of spiraled on him. They had 3 errors in the first inning. As a team, they had multiple pass balls, some wild pitches. I mean, it was just a nightmare scenario. And, yeah, he had all 5 runs in the first inning that he gave up. None of them were earned. And so I really don't think you can hold that one against him, to be honest. But he certainly didn't have his best stuff. He didn't pitch his best. He didn't handle the situation as well as he could have. But he's looked more comfortable as a starter than he has out of the bullpen, in my opinion.
So is there one thing positive, though? Let's take a quick look at that. Kale Frost is starting to hit the ball out of the yard again.
Yeah, that's something they've desperately needed, is somebody to go up there and hit the ball out of the yard, because they've had guys in scoring position and they haven't been able to drive them in. And, I mean, there's one way that you can get past that. You can put the ball out over the fence, or you can put the ball in the gap. And that's how, instead of going station to station, you have more of a likelihood to drive guys in when you hit extra base hits. I mean, it's been a problem for them all year. And they've been at the bottom of the Big Ten in most offensive categories throughout the season. This is something that they're going to have to do if they're going to beat good teams like Oregon State. Is they're going to have to figure out how to take advantage of opportunities and really make teams pay for the mistakes that they make as a pitching staff.
Yeah, and wasn't just Frost that he has had home runs in the Friday and the Saturday games. So Jeske had one today that went halfway up the left field berm. Yeah. Carey had one on Friday. Stone had one on Friday. Tyler Stone had he was an RBI double in Saturday's games.
I think he hit a home run today as well, if I'm not mistaken.
There you go. So the power's starting to finally looks like it's come back after a team-wide zap is what it looked like, at least from the slug perspective.
Yeah, Stone was injured to start the year. I don't know if they ever really made it public what the injury was, but he didn't play much at the beginning of the year. He got a couple of DH appearances or a couple pinch hit appearances, and then the past couple weeks he's started to really get featured in the lineup. And for Frost, I mean, I think it was just he'd come up from a lower level. He wasn't really maybe like confident in his abilities after that slow start, and it took some time for him to really figure out like his approach at the plate. And that hasn't just been a problem for him. That's been their whole lineup struggled to figure out what they wanted to do, and that's something that Coach Bolt has really harped on the last couple weeks. Is he was basically saying we just don't do anything well at the plate. And so what they did this week is they tried to work on some of those things and figure out what they wanted to do as a unit. And it seems like whatever they worked on, it's really paid dividends for them this weekend.
Do you think, though, that that's a byproduct of mining the JUCO system as much as they have? Because I guess you can kind of say to an extent that that's a lower level, but there is a lot of JUCO schools that can function like Division II or even Division I schools in the NCAA.
Yeah. For Frost, he was at South Dakota State, so that's pretty similar to like a mid-major team. Like I guess here locally, it'd be like pretty similar to UNO or Creighton.
Yeah, it's a
lot of their hitters though
solid
are from the JUCO level. Robbie Bolin has gotten some starts lately. He's a junior college player. He's given them a spark in a couple of games. There's a lot of guys that they've gotten from the junior college level. I mean, Ben Columbus was a junior college player for them last season, and basically it's been something that they've tried to utilize. And the tough part of that is you just never know what you're going to get with those guys, because they can look really good at the junior college level, and then you can bring them up and maybe they just, for whatever reason, it just doesn't work out. You only get those guys for a year or two, so you don't really have time to develop them. And this season they only have one freshman position player in Devin Nunez, and so they're relying a lot. He just
was a surprise too.
Yeah, they're relying a lot on these guys to come in from the junior college level and perform, and it's just kind of a roll of the dice with some of these guys. You just don't know. And so, yeah, it's one of those things where if that's going to be something that you're going to put your, I guess, like, if that's what you're going to do recruiting-wise, then that's just kind of what you're going to get.
So, as of right now, the Nebraska-Oregon State game is in the bottom of the sixth. Huskers lead 6-4 now. Assuming the score holds, which that could be a big assumption depending on what happens in the last 3 innings, how big would a series win like this over a top 5, top 10 team, depending on which poll you're looking at, how big would that be for this Nebraska team?
It would be massive for them, not in terms of record or even resume. It would be massive for their confidence, because they have really been lacking confidence at the plate, and as a team in these close games, they just haven't been able to come up with the big hit. They haven't been able to come up with the big pitch to get out of an inning. And when you see it happen against a team like Oregon State and you take a series from them, that is something that is tangible that you can see and you can show them and be like, guys, we can do this against this team. That means we can do this against these other teams that we're playing. And so that's something that it would be massive for them in kind of a way that might not show up on your resume until later in the season, if they can figure out a way to get their record back up to where it would matter. At this point, it really doesn't, but it could later on in the season if they can really use this to propel them into kind of a run of success here down the stretch.
Speaking of runs, this is a big stretch here in terms of the rest of the season for the Huskers, because it's essentially you're playing 8 home games over the next about 12-ish days. You have the 3 games with Oregon State. You have a single game with Creighton. You have to go to Omaha, but that's more or less a home game.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get 3 with Rutgers. So are we overlooking this when we think that this could potentially be a defining stretch when it comes to how we look at the season as a whole? Or are we really putting this under a microscope and being like, okay, yes, this really matters, but the rest of the season's still pretty important too?
I think with this team, every game at this point matters because of the problems that they've had being consistent. They haven't shown the level of consistency that they want to have, and so the only way that you can really get past that is to go out there and put a run of games together and, I mean, in a good way, show that you can win and not let it taper off after a couple of games, and you can go out there and perform and do the things that you need to do at the level that you need to be doing them.
Okay, my last thing for you, and this may be a a little bit of a, what's a good word for it? Very, very big question, I guess, but probably not one we need to be asking right now. But does this team have a shot to make the dance?
Right now,
Do you foresee any chance that they are playing postseason baseball?
Yeah, I mean I do, because the players that they have guys who have played in the postseason before. They have guys who have performed in the postseason before. But the problem that you're looking at here is just a numbers game. And so with where your record's at, with the losses that you have in the non-conference, you're going to have to rattle off some wins. If you can make it to the Big Ten tournament, we saw last year they won the Big Ten tournament and they got the automatic bid. And so there's always that possibility.
But they have to get there.
But they have to get to the Big Ten tournament. And so with the start that they had to the season in conference, they're going to have to win some games that maybe they shouldn't win necessarily. You really don't even have to it's not like you have to go on a tear here and win every game. You just have to start winning the games that you should win
and win series.
And figure out how to win series that you should be able to. And if you can do that, if you can get close to 500, you'll make the Big Ten tournament. You'll have a shot. And baseball is always weird. You just, as we saw with the NCAA tournament this year in basketball, the bubble can be different year by year. You just never know. And they did beat Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's a really good team. That's a win that could help them out. If they get 2 against Oregon State, those could really make them look good. I don't think the Louisiana losses, I haven't looked at how they've been doing lately. I don't think they're going to look that bad at the end of the year because you're on the road. That's a team who's usually pretty good.
Especially at home.
Yeah. I don't think the Washington wins are going to look that bad either, or Washington losses are going to look that bad either, to be honest with you. That team looked really good. They scored runs. Their record wasn't good at the time, but if I had to guess, I would say they're probably going to be right around where Nebraska is at the end of the year. So I don't think that's going to be a series where you're going to look back and be that disappointed. You obviously want to win the series because it's at home, but you got a game from it. You didn't get swept. It's not the end of the world. And so at this point, that's what you have to do, is you just have to stack games. You have to figure out ways to take series from some of the teams in your conference.
It's going to be definitely something fun to keep an eye on here as we push forward and see if they can dig themselves out of the hole that they have put themselves in. Gio, thank you for stopping by.
Yep.
We'll have Alex come on next after a quick transition. We'll be right back here on the show. Back on the other side, and Alex somehow mutated into 2 people, so this is kind of fun. That's Alex over there, and his name is Eli Rodriguez, making his first appearance on the show. How are we today, gents?
Very good. Pretty good. Happy to be here.
Let's go. So we got some softball talk today. We just witnessed some of the dark and depressing baseball, which, by the way, game just got tied 6-6 in the 7th inning. So sing your sorrows about that, but there's some good things going on at Bowling Stadium lately with the softball program.
Oh yeah, I mean they're killing it. I mean they're on a 4-game winning streak, I think, undefeated at home, 25-8. I mean can't get too much better than that.
And they won yesterday, so now it's 5. And there was 4 before this series against Purdue, and now they have one coming up later today, and then tomorrow.
It's been one heck of a stretch that they've been on, especially when they played Minnesota last weekend, and you consider the juice that was around the program right then. I mean, they had 6,500 people flock the stadium throughout the weekend, which was really impressive. And then they go to UNO for a midweek game, and they sell the place out. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, that's not really been the case this weekend because the weather's been awful, but the performance hasn't slowed down. I mean, especially the bats. The bats have been spectacular.
Yeah. I mean, we even like the Ohio State series. I mean, we lost 2 of them, but we scored so many runs, and that just killed our pitching. But I think both sides of the ball have been phenomenal. I mean, Danny, you're at the Minnesota game, you're covering, and like those Minnesota hitters, they were good. Like they were feisty, they were drawing really good counts. But Jordy, Hannah, Kylie, I mean, they all took care of business.
I would agree too, and like he said, with the Ohio State series, we did lose 12-13, I believe, but 12 runs is still a lot, and that's just showing the capability that they have from the plate. They're just able to get the bats flying, and it's showing on the scoreboard and within the stats throughout the whole team.
And we've seen it throughout the season. And you look at the starting lineup, and then just about everybody's hitting 300.
Yeah.
I mean, for a while, Sammy Blaine and Ava Bradwell were in the 230s, 240s range, and now they're back up there with the rest of them with the tough start to the year. And Abby Squire's DPing, and she's got, a 340 average, something like that? I mean, it's kind of ridiculous, the embarrassment of riches they have when it comes to the offensive side of the ball right now.
And I feel like every single game, it's a new player like hitting really well. I mean, it's not. I mean, of course, Jordy's always hitting well, but I mean, Ava might have a great day. Then Ava Kuzak might have a great day. Then Hoffman might crank 2 out of the park. I mean, every day it's a new person going off.
I just think, like what you were talking about earlier, once you see your star players, I put it in quotations because it's not really star players anymore when everyone's hitting the way that they have been. You start the lineup with Kuzak and then Ball, and then that momentum feeds off of each other, causing their teammates to play at the high level that they are.
And the threat, too, of just all of these players having the ability to cause a lot of damage. I mean, think about Jordy Ball for a second. She only had like maybe 50 at bats at Oklahoma because they didn't really need her to hit. She could just pitch and be fine with it. But we knew she was a hitter and still did pretty good in those 50 at bats. I think she had like 17 hits or something. She's been towing the line with 500 for most of the season, and this deep into the season too. I mean, they're 30-something games into the year. It's 25-8, right?
Yep.
You said the record was?
Yep.
So, yeah, they're 33 in. Quick math there. I can't do math, but that's fine. 33 games in, and you're still in the high 400s, and you're right around 500 is remarkable. And she's not just getting little rinky-dink hits. I mean, she's batting it off the wall, sending it down the lines, and sending it over the fence.
And like you said, that she's been doing well from the pitching side and from the plate as well. And I believe she does have 4 double-digit strikeout games this season. And with a good amount of games left, like 5 or 6, maybe a little more around that range, she has the ability to keep that going. And it's just proven that she's been able to get it done for her team.
No, I mean, everyone knew she was going to have a big season, but I don't think anyone realized how big of a season she was going to have. I mean, everyone knew Jordy Ball. I mean, everyone knew her pitching was going to be great, but to hit how she has been, I mean, she was hitting 500 through the first 20 games or so. Like, no one does that.
What's crazy is it's just not being talked about enough either.
Yeah.
Like you look around on the interwebs and you start scrolling, and it's like you don't really see a lot about Jordy Ball unless you're following the right accounts. But that's a story for another day.
Yeah.
But back to the team as a whole. The one thing though that I think that is a little bit of the weakness right now, and it's not even a full on weakness because Jordy's doing a lot of the legwork, but the rest of the pitching staff has been just a little shaky.
Yeah, I would agree. But you know who I liked seeing last weekend was Kylie McGee. I mean, she came off a wrist injury, so she was off. But against Ohio State, she went 2 innings, no hits, big-time strikeouts, and she just brought the energy. And Ravel talked about that post-game. She's like, she's the hardest worker out here. I mean, she's always doing something at practice. She's a PO, but you'll always find her on the bike. She might begin extra reps in her bullpen. If she doesn't like how her bullpen ended, she'll go in and do it again. I mean, so I think she's going to be a bright spot. And I don't know who – they're probably going to pitch Hannah today, but I wouldn't be surprised if they don't pitch Jory tomorrow that Kylie might get the start.
That's what I was going to say, too. Like I was saying earlier, how the high-performing players, they rub off on each other. When you have pitchers like Hannah and Jordy, that gets the rest of the bullpen excited. In this case, it was Kylie in the Minnesota series. And it's just – not only from the pitching side, but from everywhere, which is why the bats have been performing the way they have been.
Definitely, and you want to have that healthy pitching staff because we saw it last year, just how much that could mean. Because for a majority of the season, Nebraska only had 2 healthy pitchers. Jordy was on the shelf for the entire year. Olensky was down for half the season. Emerson Cope dealt with injuries. Elisa Golfin redshirted. So your only 2 healthy arms for the entire year was Harness and Kinney, and that definitely hurt them, especially getting late into the season. But back on Olensky, we're starting to see her a little bit more too, who's been nursing that season-ending shoulder injury that just really doesn't look like she's fully recovered from it. And we saw her last weekend, didn't look terrible, but I feel like that's still a viable piece of this bullpen because she's not going to be starting for the foreseeable future. There's really no reason to have her starting right now because you have a very capable lefty in Kamenzind. But that's definitely a piece you want to have healthy in your bullpen is Caitlin Olensky, and especially with the manipulation of the pitches that she brings.
No, I totally agree, especially going into the later half of the season. Jordy has crazy stuff, so it's going to be hard to scout against her. But, teams know now that Jordy and Hannah are 1-2, and so we'll need to find another arm, especially for the Big Ten tournament and hopefully the WCWS. But if we can get Olensky going and get another lefty in there, she causes a lot of problems for the other offenses.
I agree for sure.
You hardly see one lefty in a softball pitching staff, let alone 2. It's pretty darn impressive nonetheless. But you can't ride Jordy the whole season. It's strange having baseball mind sometimes, and you're trying to think about it from a softball perspective. It's like, wait a second. They could pitch every game of a weekend if they really wanted to, and they manage the pitch count. That's just kind of how it is. I don't think that Ravel really needs to do that unless she has to. Unless the combination of Cope, Olensky, and McGee just does not look good, there's really no reason for her to pitch her twice in a weekend. Could you? Totally. I would be surprised if that happens. But there's no reason to do that because they have plenty. Look at McGee regularly lighting up the radar gun when she was pitching in the Minnesota series last weekend. She was getting up there 68, 69 on the gun. She can bring the heat and is able to, especially on the rise ball, gets a lot of deception on that. We saw, 3 or 4 strikeouts on that pitch alone in that game, which was pretty darn impressive.
Yeah. It's just like going back to like the hitting wise, we're talking about how you're getting new players coming in and making big plays. Like Alex said yesterday, it was Casey Hoffman that hit 2 home runs, and then it just rubs off on each other. And then a couple batters later, you get another one from Kuzak, and it's just big plays from everyone all around.
Ava Kuzak has made a huge impact on this team, and that's another one that I don't think has been talked about enough. You can kind of put Jordy in the transfer portal acquisitions for this year because she didn't really contribute in on-field techniques last year. It was all off-the-field stuff. So you can kind of put her in that bucket, if you will. But Ava Kuzak, especially to start the season, she's definitely cooled off a little bit. But to start the season, you really were trying to find what can our production be replaced with from what we lost with Billy Andrews. And so far, it definitely seems like she's done that from the top of the lineup, minus a little bit of the defensive prowess. Billy is definitely a better defender than Ava is.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a concern, but definitely a question would definitely be how we play away. We only have that one away series or Big Ten series against Ohio State because at home we're killing it. Pitching, we talked about doing well. Hitting, we're hitting the ball. So I just want to see how we do when we're not at Bowling Stadium in front of our however many people we get.
I agree with that too, and back to what you were saying with
we haven't seen too much of
the idea.
I guess those because the beginning of the season when we were in those tournaments,
that'll definitely
a lot of neutral site games.
Yeah, exactly. And
the way
also,
that Kamenzind has been pitching the last couple of weeks has
been
we did
play
some
well
with a couple
schools,
inconsistent
but
sequences,
also
but
Big Ten play.
If she can clean that up, and if we can get
Olensky
and
story.
Kylie
the Big Ten's a pretty strong
in the
softball
bullpen, so we don't burn out ball.
So
that would
see
be
what they do
great moving forward towards the final stretch of the season and postseason.
Burnout's definitely not something I'm super concerned about with Ball. She definitely knows how to manage her workload and especially recovery, because she definitely got worked pretty hard at Oklahoma, especially her sophomore campaign. What I'm very interested to see is moving forward is just the competition at the top of the conference, because Nebraska doesn't play Oregon or UCLA, at least in Big Ten play. Nebraska did play UCLA earlier in the season, but it was technically a non-con game. So they're very much in contention for a Big Ten title. I mean, they're going to need some help to do it because Oregon and UCLA have been fantastic this year. But they're right up there. I mean, they're going after this weekend is all said and done, which this weekend includes Monday for some reason. Once that's all finished, they'll probably be in the top 4 of the 17 teams that are in the Big Ten, because for whatever reason USC doesn't have a softball team. That I'll never understand, because who wouldn't want to have a softball team, especially in Los Angeles? Come on now. But anyway, that battle at the top is going to be really interesting, especially when they're not going to be able to play each other.
Yeah, I mean, as of now, I just looked and there's like 5 other Big Ten teams with only 1 loss. You know, so when it comes to tournament time, how will we play?
That's a good point to put out too. But I think the way that they've been playing, like Alex said earlier, from batting, from pitching, from defense to offense, they're being led by one of the greatest coaching in the all-time winningest coach in Husker softball history with Rhonda Revelle, and
Winningest coach in Nebraska athletics
that is
history.
also true. With her experience, she'll bring to the players what they need and have them ready by that time for sure.
And you got to think that Rhonda Revelle is chomping at the bit to get back to Oklahoma City. You know she wants that back. And this is definitely a team that can do it. I mean, it's definitely going to be an uphill battle for sure, especially when they have struggled to beat teams that are better than them this year. That's another thing I think is going to be interesting to keep an eye on, especially when we get late in the season, because it's not that the competition's bad, but they're not playing a whole lot of ranked teams. Northwestern might be one of the best teams left on the schedule for them.
Yeah, I mean, and there's only a few series left. I mean, we're getting down to the end of the season.
It's March. What the heck?
Right.
You know, a couple of away series with Iowa, and then they're back here with Northwestern and Creighton. Then I think there's like another one in there before they come back and finish it off against Maryland for regular season. You know, it's just
2 with Indiana as well.
Indiana, that's the one I was missing. Using that time will help them fill those gaps that are missing that may not be clear on the outside, but, you know, some things that they might know and they're trying to fix within themselves before we get to postseason and a potential CWS.
Yeah, they're definitely. You want to talk about fun? They are the fun team out at the Haymarket Complex right now, and I think that they're going to be pretty fun to watch here going down the stretch. By the way, baseball update: Huskers are now down 7-6 in the bottom of the 7th inning. That was as of a minute ago at 3:43 on this March 30th. So one last thing, as we look forward to this Big Ten slate for Nebraska, they also have a couple non-con games coming up. Not a ton, but they do have a few. What's one thing that you're looking for, the both of you, that this team needs to do to be able to keep this run going that they're on?
The bullpen for sure. I want to see Cope and Olinsky and McGee. I want to have them prove themselves before we get into the postseason, because, like we said, having 2 solid starting arms is good, but it's not enough.
Especially with the way that this weekend is going to end. You know, you saw yesterday they won 13-1 and Ball pitched the entire game. To provide that more experience for Cope, Olinsky, McGee, I feel like Revelle can incorporate them once they have that big of a lead, just to get some more experience so they're ready for those non-conference matchups, like you mentioned, towards the end of the season.
They're going to be a fun team to watch the rest of the year, and like Alex alluded to, The regular season's almost over. There's about a month left in it, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But thank you both for dropping by. Thank you, Alex, for hanging around, and Eli for just popping up out of nowhere, because you do have a knack for doing that sometimes. Thank you as well to Gio for coming on and talking about baseball earlier. We are going to get to some wrestling next week, because there was a thing called National Runner-Up that they had not too long ago, which is a huge deal. So we're going to talk about that next week and get some more recaps on some of the other spring sports going on. Thank you for watching, listening to Scarlet Fever wherever you get your podcast. We will see you at the next show.